Assalamualaikum, Sarah. How are you? We missed you last week.
Alhamdulillah, good. I know, I couldn't make it last week, but alhamdulillah.
All right, that's cool.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. How are you, Dr. Saab?
Alhamdulillah, my computer is giving me trouble. I'm on the phone,
Oh.
which is taking me quite a tough time, but let's see.
Well, glad to have you with us.
Huh?
We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah. Very good.
Very good, very good. I'm the last 10 minutes struggling with my computer.
Oh,
So the little kids my grands were here today and something is off somewhere.
Uh-oh.
But I am on this, what you may call it, handheld phone. At least the voice will be there.
oh, okay.
But what can you do? What can you do?
Well, we can see you, and I think you can see us, right?
Yeah.
You can see me? I don't really have any view
Yeah.
at all.
No, we can see you.
Yeah, I can see you.
I'm walking around here and there looking. All right. Good. If you can see me, that's good.
Yeah.
I will have to see what did I do. But anyways, I got the book. So let's see what we can do. Okay. I don't know what I can do. I didn't find any place to put it. This should not have happened to me. I'm a nice guy. But
So
okay.
What did your grandkids pull on a cable or something?
I have no idea, but they were around here playing with things. They probably have pulled something out somewhere. It's too late for me to do anything about it, so I'll just hang in there. If you guys can hear me and see me, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
very well.
Okay, goody.
Assalamualaikum, Wasif. Thank you for introducing yourself. So we have a new student today, Brother Wasif. Actually, before we mention anything, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I just realized that my son's name up there.
Oh,
My
okay.
name is Tayyiba, because he attends his class sometimes on my phone. So I just, as soon as he said Wasif, I said, "Oh, son, sorry."
It's all good.
I
What's your name,
forgot your
sister?
My name is Tayyiba Sarfraz.
Okay.
And I was visiting the center. There's something a group a session I'm attending by Sheikh Mendes. From the Jersey City Islamic Center, and I was interested in the center, and I was just checking it out, and this appeared, and I like to read about Allama Iqbal. Sometimes I like to share some of the poems with my kids, and it's like, why not check it out and see what they are doing. And there wasn't much information about the initiative behind or what the intention was. So that's why I wrote down if anybody can share how this group started, and if there are any rules that we need to follow. Do you work on something specifically each week? For how long it's been meeting? For how long do you plan on meeting?
Yeah, so the group happens every week from basically 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the point of it is not just to go through the literary ideology behind the Shiqq and Jawab Shiqq or Allama Iqbal's writings, but it's more so to engage in a discussion. So we take about 3 buns every week, 3 sections, and we go through them. We go through their background as much as we can. My background is in basically is working within the Muslim community. Dr. Rahman is a retired hematologist oncologist. He can tell you more about himself, but he is the bread and butter of this session. So a lot of what we have to gain is from the knowledge and wisdom that he shares with us. And then we talk about many different perspectives, like what does it, what does it mean to be a Muslim? How do you understand your faith in the context of being South Asian and in America? And then also engage in discussion with people, get into the Urdu, Farsi, Arabic backgrounds as well. So it's very like the only thing that we follow really is that we follow the text, but we just try to engage in discussion. Dr. Saab, if you have anything to add, feel free to do so.
I was just wanted to say that our idea is to make sure that we carry the torch forward of Urdu literature and Muslim, kind of a background in terms of Allama Iqbal's poetry. I am a poet myself in Urdu, and I have 5 or 6 books already in poetry. So I love Urdu literature. And of course, Iqbal is my mentor, my teacher. And by inference, then Rumi also, Maulana Rumi. I know a little bit of Persian too. So that works for me. And we do this basically. We started with Shikwa, Jawab-e-Shikwa. We are almost finishing Jawab-e-Shikwa. In a couple of sessions, we'll finish it. But the idea is then to take different topics from Iqbal's poetry and dissect it, talk about it, and whatever message is contained in that poetry, we go over it and we try to make it interesting. We do leave ample time at the end for participants' presentations, also ideas, also questions, also whatever they have. Many a time we would appreciate if people who are listening can come up and say something on their own concerning whatever poetry was discussed. So it's interesting, and we are basically English, although we use Urdu here from Iqbal, but our explanations and all that is basically in English. So it's good for the people who have some background in Urdu and want to build on it.
Yes. Now, do you email your participants of whatever piece of work you're going to go over each week, or are we expected to have this already on hand?
I don't think there's really any prior preparation. We actually just, if you come and you want to do some preparation. So Dr. Abdurrahman actually has written a book, so we have it here. We can, if you contact the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton, they can send it. And actually in the book, we've shown it to other people, but there's English, there's Urdu, there's the poetry as well. And then in front of you have I use my iPad, and I basically will be circling things and writing things down, and then people can follow along or take their own notes or not take notes. It just depends on them. My background is that I'm from New Jersey, born and raised. I actually currently work as the Director of Religious Affairs at a masjid in Connecticut, but I'm from New Jersey, and I studied Arabic and Islamic studies at Nadwatul Ulama and Urdu in Lucknow, India. So that's basically where we're coming from.
Oh, sure. And if I want to get my hands on the Allama Iqbal's work, would you recommend just going online and putting in Shikwa, Jawab-e-Shikwa, for example?
Yeah, basically, yeah, you could do that. You can also, if you want to get a copy of Dr. Ahmad's book, I'm actually gonna, you can send an email to Sajid Sayed, just emailed, or just sent the email at sajid@comcast.com, I believe. So yeah, you can get it from there, but yeah, you can kind of take a look at it and just follow along and see how you find it, and then you could take it from there possibly.
Yeah, this is only about Shikwa, but future lessons maybe from other parts of Iqbaliyat. So you're better off downloading it from the internet also. Shikwa, Jawab-e-Shikwa, you can easily do that. The book is there. Book makes it easy. The book that I wrote, I did the translation and transliteration, so it's easier for people once you have that book that you wrote. But we are following it sequentially on Jawab-e-Shikwa now, and you will see that after this session for the following week, you will already know as to what you have to really prepare for if you want to prepare. Otherwise, we basically explain things here. Should we get started?
So much. Thank you.
I think we can get started, inshallah. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. All right, everyone, we're going to be starting from bund number 23, which in the book is going to be page number 65. I believe. Yeah, 65. So we can inshallah get started. And the way it works usually is that Dr. Rahman will read the lines of poetry for us, and then we'll go through the hard words, and then we'll get into a discussion with you, inshallah.
Okay. All right. मिसले अंजुम उफ़क़े कौम पे रोशन भी हुए, बुते हिंदी के मोहब्बत में बरहमन भी हुए, शौक परवाज में महजूर नशेमन भी हुए, बेअमल थे ही जवां दीन से बदजन भी हुए, उनको तहजीब ने हर बंद से आजाद किया, ला के काबे से सनम खाने में आबाद किया. Now, this is the Jawab Shikwa, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is responding to Iqbal's Shikwa. And these 3 or 4 bands that are coming up are now really in the middle. In the beginning, bands, the Jawab Shikwa bands, they were the point-by-point answers. Now, this is a turning point in these 3 or 4 bands that we might cover today, where some situation is being explained, and then the subsequent bands that will come after this will tell us as to what we are supposed to do if we want to really get a response to our shikwa and do something about it. So here, misle anjum. Misl is example. Anjum is the plural of stars. Najum is star. Ufake kaum, horizon of the nation. Bute Hindi, idol, Indian idol, or Bute Hindi is an idol made in India, so to speak. Brahman is, of course, the elite Zat in India, in Hindu religion. Shauke Parvaz is easy. Mahjur is migrated. Hijrat करने वाले को महजूर कहते हैं जिसने हिजरत की हो. Nasheman is Ashiana, or a place where somebody resides. Nasheman actually is used here as a place where you live or stay. Be'amal tehi jawan deen se badzan. Badzan is just being not really fully believing in it. When you are badzan about something, you really don't believe it to be true, or you are having doubts about it. तो उनको तहजीब is culture, हर बंद से आजाद किया, ला के काबे से सनम खाने में आबाद. Sanam khana is where a culture that is not believing in one God. Sanam is idol, khana is where the idol is put. So Sanam khana is where a lot of idols. So basically these were the difficult words. Now go ahead, maybe you can flowingly explain it.
Yeah. The way I was looking at this was misle anjum ufaq qaum pe roshan bhi hue, right? That like the stars. And actually, I was going to ask you, Dr. Saab, could you go over ufaq qaum? What is he referencing in regards to the horizon of the people?
Basically, he says that the Muslims have misle anjum, like stars. The Muslims have become apparent or became present on a nation, on a wider nation. It is talking about Muslims that came from, let's say, the Arab lands and Turkish areas, and then came to India. So he's talking about those that we were talking about, our ancestors, that they were very good and we were taking credit for them.
Right,
right. Now we are being told that yes, they did appear. Ufuk means on the horizon of the nation, means on a new place, in a new place, they did appear like stars. They were very successful and very clear about what they had to say or do. They became very obvious and apparent and very prominent on a new horizons, and like stars. When they came from Turkey or from Middle East into India, they really were shining stars, so to speak.
Okay.
Bute Hindi ki mohabbat mein Brahman bhi hue. They became more entangled into Indian culture, in love of the idols that they saw around them in India, and they became elite of within India.
Yeah.
Shauke Parvaz mein, in the interest of flying away from wherever they were, Mahjure Nasheman bhi hue. They left there their place where they used to be, and they came into new places. They migrated into a new area.
Yeah.
Now he's talking about Be'amal se hi jawan deen se bazan bhi hue. Their youth, their youngsters were not practicing Muslims anyway. Be'amal, they were not doing the deeds. Now deen se bazan bhi hue. They became doubtful about their belief systems also because of their new environment.
Yeah.
उनको तहजीब ने हर बंद से आजाद किया. This culture that they found in India, this liberated them from every other restriction they had being Muslims. और ला के काबे से सनम खाने में आबाद किया. They were in Muslim areas, Muslim lands, and suddenly they come into Indian environment where there are a lot of idols around them in Hindu culture. This is basically the translation of the words.
Yeah.
But obviously the implied message you understand. So you go ahead, maybe dwell on it a little bit as to what the message here is.
Yeah. I think one thing that I'm thinking about, I think we'd spoken about this, how a lot of the Muslims that migrated from all over the world to India, they were people seeking out good livelihood, right? So you had the Turks, you had people come from what is now Uzbekistan and whatnot. You had people come from what is now Iran. You had people come from the Arab world. You had people come from all over. And actually, if you were to trace a lot of people's lineages in India, it goes back to places outside of India, all over the place, down to even in the modern world, right? We know of people who are Indian that come from, that are leftovers from the British, right? People that are Parsi. So
yeah,
just like that, these people were known as Ashraf, right? Ashraf Ummat or whatnot you want to call them. And they had wealth, and not only that, they had a high elite status. So they were the Brahmins in there, like that, right? We know about the Brahmins in the Hindu caste system. So here, Butte Hindi ke mohabbat mein Brahman bhi hue. So through the love of that Indian culture, through the love of that understanding of what India was, they were mutassir ho rahe usse. They were being affected by the culture that was there. Shoka Parwaz mein, so in the in the want of the American dream, I'll call it for today, right? In the pursuit of the American dream,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Right? They left what was actually their homeland. They left what was actually their beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Shoka Parwaz, we had spoken about. Parwaz means the power of flight. So they wanted to climb the ranks. They wanted to go higher and higher. So,
beautiful. That's exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah. So they left everything that they learned and knew, and it was, and sometimes this is something to keep in mind, right? Changing is not always bad, but when you are changing the core of who you are, and the core of who you are is good, and you are changing that good to bad, then that's not healthy. Maybe shedding friends is good, shedding bad beliefs is good, or things that are holding you back from practicing your faith and being good to people. But Majud and Nashiman, referring to your essence, referring to where you come from, referring to who you are, your language, your faith. If you're going to shed that for the sake of climbing, you're not really climbing, you're actually falling very hard. And what was their way of climbing? They were young people that were non-practicing, right? So they already didn't have that sense of practice. They didn't have that sense of acting upon what they know. Our faith tells us what? That inna ladina amanu wa amilu salihat. It's mentioned so many times in the Quran that indeed those who believe and they act upon what they know, right? Deen se badzan bhi hue. They started to become doubtful. They started to have bad thoughts about their faith. And he's talking about this 100 years ago, but I want you to think about a lot of like the rational and intellectual arguments people will utilize, specifically Muslims will utilize to say that, oh, I don't know if my faith actually makes sense. I don't know if my faith is true, right? Or you see the rise of secular Muslims who want to discard their faith completely. And it goes on. What is the actual subject matter of this entire band? Well, as we see in the last two lines, inko tehzeeb ne har band se azad kiya, and har band se yani har qanun se. So this unko tehzeeb ne, so this culture that they have acquired, this new way of living, right, where everything is open, everything is free, right? Everything, there's nothing to stop you. So inko tehzeeb ne har band se azad kiya. So this culture has freed them from everything that would have bound them down, right? Everything that would have been a law to restrict them. La ke Kaaba se sanam khane mein abad kiya. It's as if like you took them from the Kaaba, right? And then you place them in the Sanam Khana where there's a temple or there are idols, right? And instead of, the opposite, where the Kaaba had idols removed from it, right? So that the oneness of Allah could be established. Here, the oneness is removed so that you can go and worship idols. And this isn't some weird idea. The Quran talks about this as well, that have you not seen the one who takes his desire or her desire to be their God? So here, that's what it is. Today, people worship money. People worship their status. They will worship their job. They will worship themselves. They will worship everything but the one that is worthy of worship. So in essence, this, what is being spoken about, the tahzeeb, right? The culture and being restricted, and it's not restricted, it's about having a divine order recommending how you should live your life. You've chosen to do away with that. Instead, you want the limelight, you want the new culture because it's novel, you want to be an elite, and in the pursuit of that eliteness, in the pursuit of that American dream, you have left behind those things which define who you are at the core. You already were not strong in that faith that you had, but now you have the audacity to prove doubtful and wrong that which you were raised upon. And it's because of the culture and the laws that come with it, which give you this quote unquote freedom, where you take yourself from the beauty of the oneness of God, of worshiping God within the Kaaba, to going back and taking 2 steps back to once again manifesting yourself amongst these idols.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. Basically, the background is that the ancestors that you were talking about, that they were so good and this and that. What happened is when they came and they settled in the new environment in the Indian culture, they became a little bit free of all the restrictions that Islam had put on them. And now in this new culture, there were challenges, and they became a little bit doubtful. The youngsters, the youth, which means you also, which means Iqbal also, because Iqbal was talking about how our ancestors did this. So he's being told that because of that, and there were no inhibitions left for you. You saw everything happening in that free culture, and the youngsters, they were not practicing anyway. Now they became even doubtful about the actual belief system in Islam.
Actually, there's actually something I was thinking about. Sometimes you'll hear people say, "Oh, agar hum India mein agar reh gaye the, ya Pakistan mein reh gaye the, or if we stayed in our Muslim countries, like we wouldn't have lost our faith, or our kids wouldn't have lost our faith." But Allama Sahib's already saying, "Tum log to be'amal the shuru hi se," right? So this was just a nail in the coffin. That's all it was. You were already in the coffin, right? And sometimes people think like, "Oh, if I'm leaving these environments and coming to a new environment, that I'll be losing my faith." But he's already mentioning that you didn't have deen. Tum to already bad deen or bad zan be deen, to tum to already the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this and the next 2 bunds also are fairly, nonchalant kind of saying the actual heavy stuff will come after that. This is basically, like I said, it's a joint. We are at the hinge right now where some explanations are being given as to why it happened, whatever happened to you people in the last, let's say, 50 years, 100 years prior to the partition of India. So this is one. Maybe we can go on to the next one now.
Sure.
Okay.
And by the way, does anyone have anything to add to this, or any comments or questions?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Nihal. My beautiful explanation. I've never had seen it in the light that you just shed on, along with Dr. Saab. Thank you so much. When we come to the last line, I just got stuck on the lam alif.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's there by any chance. Had Allama Iqbal been alive, I'm sure he'll second that this comes from the La ilaha illallah.
No, it does not. No.
No, I'm not saying it comes, but the essence, if you feel it, that it is there's no God but Allah. And he keeps on saying that there's La ki Kabe se. So we are coming from the Kaaba, as you said, the house of Allah, of course, and Sanam Khanim. So he's reminding us of that La. You have to negate everything.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful of you to think that way, but here, this is basically, he says he took you from there and he has put he has not, but you have. You have been taken away. You have brought those kids, youngsters, from a safety of Kaaba or Islamic culture into Sanam Khane. And Abad karne ka matlab hota hai ki you settle down there. This is
Right.
why you are now exposed to it. No, that this lie is not that. No, let's be clear about it. Although you
Okay.
can.
I just had a
Yeah.
had a feeling that he's reminding
Yeah.
us of
No,
just
no, no.
negating everything to remember the one who created us.
Yeah,
So just
that's
wanted
good,
to
but
see if what I'm thinking, if I'm thinking along the right lines or not. So
It's a good reflection, though. It's a good
this
reflection.
is fantastic. You see, that the beautiful part about poetry is that a poet does maybe 10% of the work. The other 90% is done by the imagination of the listeners and readers. This is beauty
Yeah.
of the poetry. So
Yeah.
when poet just cajoles you and throws something basically as a challenge, and people, depending on their background knowledge and their own perspective of things, can make a lot of depth into it. So you can say it that way, but if you say la ke kabe se, so that is kind of stretching here. But
Yeah.
anyway, here it's fairly simple flowing Urdu. Kabe se la ke
Right.
kar diya bas.
yes.
So
Yeah, Lana means, like, as we mentioned, to bring,
Lana.
right? Lana,
To bring,
laka,
yes,
lake,
exactly.
laya,
To
yeah.
Lana, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's a good reflection. So thank you for that, Deva. All right,
Thank you.
cool. All righty. This one was fun.
okay, that's easy. कैस जहमत कशे तन्हाई ये सहरा न रहे, शहर की खाए हवा बादिया पैमा न रहे, वो तो दीवाना है बस्ती में रहे या न रहे, ये जरूरी है हिजाबे रुख लैला न रहे, गिलाए जोर न हो शिकवाए बेदाद न हो, इश्क आजाद है क्यों हुस्न भी आजाद न हो. In this band, there's a whole lot of room for different interpretations, but basically Cass is Majnu, the famed lover of Laila. Zahmat कहते हैं hardship को. Zahmat Kash is the one who takes the hardship. Tanhai is Sahara, the lone solitude of a desert. शहर की खाए हवा, वो तो आसान है. Badia Pema is somebody who is aimlessly roaming around in the desert, in deserts or forests or wherever. So that is Badia Pema, somebody who's on foot walking aimlessly here and there, just like Majnu was for Laila in Sahara. वो तो दीवाना है बस्ती में रहे या ना रहे. This is easy. ये जरूरी है हिजाबे रोके लैला ना रहे. Hijab is the veil, of course. Rohe Laila, the face of Laila. In other words, the beloved, it's important that the beloved unveiled herself or himself. But as far as the people who are seekers of their beloved, those people basically are not like Cass anymore. Cass used to be Zahmat Kashe Tanhai, alone when he was in love with somebody, like you claim to be in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Cass used to be, he didn't mind roaming around in the desert all by himself, but you guys don't want to do that. You have now gotten used to the city. You शहर की हवा खा रहे हो, शहर के माहौल में हो, बादिया पैमाना रहे. You are not no longer interested in roaming around aimlessly like Cass did. वो तो दीवाना है बस्ती में रहे या ना रहे, ये जरूरी है हिजाबे रुके लैला ना रहे. So basically he was not worried about where he is, whether he's in a dwelling somewhere in the city or somewhere in solitude in a desert. But here it's important that the Laila unveils herself and becomes more clear or apparent as to what your aim and purpose is, what you actually want to achieve. Here again, Gilaye Jor na ho. Jor is hardship, being harsh on somebody. Jor is like being not necessarily cruel, but being hard, difficult to please. that kind of shikwa is the complaint. Shikwa bedad. Bedad is again when you are cruel to somebody, you're punishing someone without their fault. That's called bedad. So ishq azad hai, kyun husn bhi azad now. This is easy. So since the love is the lover is the seeker is free, why is it that the beloved should not also be free? So it's basically a very profound kind of a bond, like I said, where he's going to come to the point where he will tell us what we have to do to gain our fame and gain our honor again. But basically, he's saying that you feel that you have the love of Majnu, but you're not really bothered by going through what he was going through.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So here it's also mentioning like Zahmat Kashet and Hai Sahara Nara. So they don't want to struggle right at that point. Like they don't want to go through the solitude of walking in the desert, feeling the heat, feeling the sand, feeling the dryness, right? By definition, you're supposed to be Qais, you're supposed to be in love with Layla. And not only that, if you're claiming you're in love with someone, you're not willing to struggle for them, you're not willing to go and make an effort for them, then what type of love is that? Right? You've experienced everything given to you, right? In the city, everything is walkable, it's available to you, so you become very accustomed to it. But you're not willing to walk in the in the forest, or actually I think this one's supposed to be forest or desert accidentally, but you're not willing to.
Anyway, but there are no people, no civilization. That's the body.
Yeah. Wo deewane hain, right? Basti mein rahe ya na rahe. So they were people that are supposed to be in love, right? Whether you're in the city or not.
Yes, they were so passionate about what they wanted.
Yeah.
That they were willing to go through that hardship. Yes.
Who is he talking? He's talking about Woto Diwane. He's talking about the Aba Ajdad, if I'm correct, right? Or no?
Exactly, because in the previous month we have been talking about when he was saying that we did this for you, we did this, हमने घोड़े दौड़ा दिए, हमने तेरे नाम के लिए अपनी जानें कुर्बान की वगैरह वगैरह.
Yeah.
So he says because you have now moved on and into new and very comfortable locations here and there. So what you have done is you have not really done the hardship like your ancestors used to do. Yeah. They were always going through tough times for me, for Lala, for the beloved, and for them, whether they are in the city or whether they are in a deserted place, they basically concentrated on me and me alone.
Yeah.
And you are now complaining and saying that I am not kind to you and I'm not being soft on you, but quite frankly, you are not really having the kind of character they had, so that they would deserve it. That you would do. Yes.
Yeah, wo to deewane the, right? We're talking directly to these people जो मिस्ले अंजुम मुफ़क़े क़ौम मतलब आए थे वो रोशन करने के लिए, मगर उनके जो their children who are later left, like, now this is who you guys are. You want to love, but you can't love, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually so true too, because this is gonna sound funny, but like any American Muslim, like I work with a lot of people in the community, like can tell you about how like men and women want to get married, but they don't know how to sacrifice for each other, right? And it's just like spinning wheels and trying to find a spouse, for example, because even then, right, they're like, oh, my mother and father's marriage was like this, but you didn't do anything your mother and father did to preserve that marriage or whatnot. But it's just like it plays so hard into it, because you're talking about love, but love, divine love for your faith, that you should be connected to your God, but neither are you willing to walk through the barren desert, neither are you willing to wander in the forest, right? Rather, you've become comforted by the city. You attach yourself to your ancestors, but they had the infatuation and love that was needed to actually love their faith. Basti mein rahe ya na rahe. And Basti is in reference to what here exactly? Are they referring to the city basically still?
Basti is where a lot of people live, inhabited place. is and you see opposite of desert where nobody lives.
Yeah. So he's saying that whether they lived in the city or not, they were unaffected.
Yeah. In other words, both of them. He was talking about Cass now. He's giving example of Cass and Lala.
Yeah.
That the Cass was, whether he was in the city or wherever, he basically was concentrating on Hijabe Roke Lala. He wanted to see Lala without her covering. In other words, wanted to be face to face with her. And you have stopped being face to face with me. So you are not struggling like he did for his objective. So basically, it's a simple thing. Let's move on to the next, unless somebody has any question, because there's not much message in this one. He's just dwelling on the same thought that you're taking it easy, and you are, because you moved into a new location. He's coming to a point in the next 2 months where he's going to tell you that confinement into a particular location, city, or a culture is not something that you should be worried about. You are a millet or a qawm that has no boundaries. So he'll come to that, and I think he's building a case for that right now.
Yeah.
Ishq azad hai, kyun husn bhi azad na ho. Just be free.
Mariam, you had a question?
No, it wasn't a question. I was actually just going to say I've been actually waiting for us to reach this one because I think it very accurately captures a lot of what is ignored in our relationship with divine love, in understanding both the Jalal and the Jamal of Allah and all his attributes, and not seeing it as something that's transactional, but really staying with that, committed to that relationship with Allah. And I think this first line right here really captures that, in that you shouldn't, just be committed to when you're receiving something, but also when you're wandering aimlessly. That should remain as your aim.
Beautiful.
I really appreciated it.
And I think also in the next bund we're going to get into talking about the Prophet Abraham a little bit. But something that goes into this is that the Quran talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam's own struggles with God, right? And I think today when people talk about, especially young Muslims talk about their struggles with faith, their struggles with Islam, the fact that you're struggling shows you care, right? The fact that you are going through doubt, right? For example, Ibrahim alayhi salam, we're going to get into this actually in a moment. And I'd love to actually discuss some of these things with you all, but it's going to show that, how is that love showcased? So this band is showcasing that paradigm that if you want to love, you want to believe, you have to struggle, and you can't mask that difficulty within you. You have to face it. And we're going to see that here, or in the next band. Unless someone has anything else to add, I guess we can move to the next one.
Excuse me. Assalamu alaikum, Shamir here. Can you please explain the last line?
Ishq azad hai, kyun husn bhi azad na ho? Is that the one?
Yes.
Okay. The words are easy. In other words, if he says that love is free, why beauty should not also be free? This is difficult to understand unless you know the background as to what he's referring to. He's talking about why is it that you are kind of containing your beloved into a particular little compartment or particular little area, and not allowing it to express itself and go beyond the boundaries. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was kind to everybody other than Muslims also, and when Iqbal complained that non-believers are getting all those things and we are not getting anything, and this and that and whatever else, here it's being said that because of where you are and what your particular situation is, you are free to choose as to what you want to do. So you're not doing anything, you're not believing in me, you're not going through the hardship like your ancestors. Why is it that you are saying that I can't do any of these things, being your God, your Lord? So in other words, here realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his ways of really reacting to your love. So it's a little bit normal here. He says that there should be no complaint about somebody being unfair to you, shikwa bedad na ho, there should be no complaint about being harsh on somebody without any reason. When you punish somebody without their fault, that's bedad. So all of this will happen. He says that none of these things will actually take place if you were the way Cass was for his Lala. But it's a little bit not very simple. It's he's giving parables here that are kind of stretching a little bit. I mean, as a poet, I can tell you that he could have done it a little bit better way, but this particular band is a little difficult. It kind of not very clear as to what he wants to say here. But
is he basically mentioning that because the lover no longer fails to, because the idea is to understand Qais, you have to know Layla, right? So he's struggling all this time to get to Layla, and he's struggling there to just get a look at her, to just, you know, be there just for a little bit in her presence. So now, is it the fact that because the lovers are not loving anymore, that the Mahbub, the Layla, aka also referring to the one that the divine that has to be loved, now has to showcase himself or herself in this case for Layla, because or else they're all going to just they miss the point.
Yeah.
You know.
The words are easy, but implications are kind of, you know, are based on previous bands that we have discussed. So in this particular one, if you take this alone, it leaves a lot of questions in your mind as to what he is referring to about who's doing shikwa here and who is doing gila here, and what he means when he says ishq and husn. So he's just referring to Cass being us, the seekers, and Layla being the divine beauty. And he's basically using that example that Cass was willing to do any and everything to have a glimpse of his beloved, but you have changed your ways and you're a little bit, like last month was Tanasani, you are going the ease of your being. So you don't want to go through anything that is challenging for you. You just want an easy way out.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, we can move to the third one, inshallah.
Okay, this will at least give a little bit more perspective. Add now, bark hai, आतिश ज़ने हर हरमन है, ऐमने से कोई सहरा न कोई गुलशन है, इस नई आग का अक़वाम कोहन ईंधन है, मिल्लते ख़त्म रसूल शोला बपैराहन है. Let me read it again. ऐदनो बर्क है, आतिश ज़ने हर हरमन है, ऐमने से कोई सहरा न कोई गुलशन है, इस नई आग का अक़वाम कोहन ईंधन है, मिल्लते ख़त्म रसूल शोला बपैराहन है. आज भी हो जो इब्राहिम का ईमान पैदा, आग कर सकती है अंदाज़े गुलिस्तान पैदा. This is basically what he wanted to say. आज भी हो जो इब्राहिम का ईमान पैदा, आग कर सकती है अंदाज़े गुलिस्तान पैदा. Okay, add now the new era, the new time. Bark is lightning, bijli. आतिश जन है जो आग लगा दे किसी चीज को, they put lights a fire on somebody. Kharman is your zakhira of your anaj. Kharman is where you put all your resources. Kharman basically is where you did your till your land, and then you had your wheat and your barley and whatever else you did. And when the seeds came, the fruit, not the fruit, what would we call it? दाने जो होते हैं उसके.
The grain, yeah.
Grain. When you put that in a big dher, that's called kharman. So, in other words, your resources and collection of your resources, that's what kharman is. So, Aman means safe. Aman is mahfuz. Isse koi sahra na koi gulshan hai. Sahra is the desert. Gulshan is the garden, which means uninhabited place or inhabited place. None of that is safe. Is nayi aag ka aqwam kohan. Aqwam is jama of qawm, means nations. Kohan is the old. Eendhan hai. Is nayi aag ka aqwam kohan eendhan hai. Eendhan is what do you call it? It's something that is used to burn, that burns it. Okay, so the old nations are actually the burning material for this new fire that is coming your way. Millate Khatme Rasul, the followers of the final prophet. Shola ba Parahan. Shola is flame, Parahan is the garments. तो मिल्लत खत्म रसूल शोला पैराहान है, जो खत्म रसूल की मिल्लत है, यानी मुस्लिम लोग जो है, मुसलमान हैं, उनके कपड़ों में आग लगी हुई है. हाँ, तो ये है सिचुएशन. This is where we are today. He's telling us that if you analyze your situation, Muslim people are really now burning. Their clothes are on fire because this new culture that has started. For this new culture, the firewood is the old nations, the older cultures, Aqwam Kohan, Purane log, Purani Qaume. Amnes se koi sahrana, koi gulshan. Nobody is safe from it, not an inhabited place or uninhabited place. In other words, if you're living in a little village, you're not safe. If you're living in a big city, from this fire, you're not safe. Fire is the new culture. As they now birth a new era, the new time that is come that you're going through now, it's like a lightning. It's going to burn everything that you have, everything that you have collected so far. If you do not understand the nuances of this new era that you're going through right now, then this is going to burn everything that you have. And right now your clothes are on fire. That's what he says. Then he says, Aaj bhi ho jo Ibrahim ka Imam paida. If you can harness the faith and the conviction of what Ibrahim alayhi salam, may Allah please be with him, what he had, then aag kar sakti andaz gulistan paida. The fire can still come back and behave like a garden that it did for Ibrahim alayhi salam. So that line is simple, but in other words, the whole point is that if your faith was strong like Ibrahim had, then all this fire that he's talking about can turn into a flower bed for you. But you have to have that kind of a conviction that Abraham had when he just jumped into the fire and the fire did not burn him, because he believed that he's a friend of Allah and Allah will save him. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And I think this is where I wanted to actually share some of these verses that were coming to my mind. This was the verse in Surah Anbiya, verse 69, where Allah actually says that قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, that Ibrahim a.s.'s faith was such that they burned this fire for 40 days and 40 nights. And when they throw him into it, Ya naru kuni, Allah says to it, O fire, kuni bardan, be cold, be cool, wasalaman, and peaceful, ala Ibrahim, upon Ibrahim. That was the result of his faith. Now, before, in these other verses prior, we were talking about how faith is brought together, the ups and downs of faith that people go through. And even in these last two lines that we just read, Aaj bhi ho jo Ibrahim ka iman paida. Ibrahim ka iman kya tha? What was Ibrahim's iman? Well, look at this here. Ibrahim alayhi salam in Surah Baqarah says this: "With qala Ibrahimu," that, and recall when Abraham said, "Rabbi arini kayfa tuhyi al-mauta." Oh Allah, show me how do you bring the dead back to life. And Allah asked him a question, right? Look at this. This is really important. Awalam tu'min. Number one, Ibrahim is questioning God, right? We often teach kids, don't question God, don't question faith. But look, he questioned, Kayfa tuhyi al-mauta. He's questioning God, how do you do it? And Allah asks him that, do you not believe? Awalam tu'min. And then he says, Qalu, he says, Qala bala. He says, yes, I do. Without a doubt, I do. Walakin, but, liyatma inna qalbi. Mere qalb ko itminan karne ke liye main pooch raha hu. I just want to satisfy my heart, right? My emotions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to partake in an actual activity to see how that faith is shown, right? And Allah doesn't explain him or explain to him what, like how it works. Allah tells him to do something so he would understand. So,
Exactly.
فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِنَ الطَّيْرِ. Take 4 parts of a bird, put them on different parts of the mountain, and then call out to them, and you'll see how Allah does it. And then on top of that, Ibrahim alayhi salam's journey to faith is also shown here in verse 76, 77, 78, Surah An'am. Right? فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا. So when the night came and they saw the stars, right? Qala hadha rabbi. Ibrahim alayhi salam said, this is my Lord. But falamma afala, when the stars went away, he said, la uhibbul afilin. I do not like things that go away. And now there's rationale, right? This can't be God, it goes away. Then number two, falamma ra al-qamara bazighan, right? When he saw the moon rising, coming out, falamma afala. And before that, he said, qala hadha rabbi, that this is my Lord. This has to be my Lord. But again, it went away. Afala. Qala la'in lam yahdini rabbi. If my Lord does not guide me, then I will be of those who are misguided. And then finally, the third time he sees the sun and he sees it rising and shining, and he says, Hada Rabbi. And now he's like, I've come to the point. Hada Akbar. This is the greatest. Right now I found God. This is it. This can't, it has to be this. Falamma afalat, but that also went away. So even when in your journey of faith, you think you found the right place, sometimes that's your real starting point to find God. Right? He's like, I don't understand what's going on, but you people are not the ones that are bringing me to God. And then eventually in verse 79, he finds God, that I have turned my face. We say this before our prayers, right? That I have turned my face to the one who created the heavens and the earth. And I am one who is Hanif. I'm somebody that is believing in the oneness of God. And I'm not of those who have disbelieved. That was the faith of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And I think it's important for people to understand that when he is talking about, in the last band, when he's speaking about the Iman of Ibrahim, what is he actually in reference towards? That was the Iman of Ibrahim. Ibrahim's Iman made him cool in the fire. Ibrahim's Iman questioned God and he worked on finding his faith. And Ibrahim's Iman was one that he questioned and he literally failed in, right? Or he would say that he wasn't just given that, right? He struggled in his faith. And this entire thing today, right, what we mentioned before, what we spoke about in the first line here, right? Right? These are the people that we were talking about, right? That they did not have that Iman. But if you want to find the glory of your faith and you want to have an affinity to your faith, then you need to become a lover. That's where it starts. And then after that, once you become a lover, you will find that the love that Ibrahim alayhi salam had for Allah, in which he questioned, he asked, he searched, was something that we all will also find within its sweetness.
Beautiful, beautiful. That is the gist of it.
Yeah.
So conviction and real belief in true being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is essential for you then. And once you do that, then you don't see hardship as a hardship for you. Then you basically are so much reliant on his being that you leave your affairs to him and then he takes care of you. You know, they say that when Ibrahim alayhi salam was right at the edge of the fire and almost about to be thrown in, at that time Gabriel appeared, by one narration at least, that do you really want God to save you? And we are told that the answer was that he's watching over me. He knows what situation I'm in. If he wants to save me, he will save me. Otherwise, I am comfortable whether I go to him now or whether I live out a few more years and then go to him. It's totally immaterial to me. That he was so much reliant because his faith had become very strong by observing having a mushahida, direct mushahida. And I'm glad that you mentioned the happenings that occurred before, the story of the birds and the other. So this way, his faith was very, very strong. So he puts the knife on the throat of his son, realizing that this is the command of God and this is what God wants. And then, of course, God wanted to set that as an example for his followers, and no harm was done to Ismail alayhi salam. But this conviction is the highest that you would see anywhere in terms of faith that somebody had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he went through so many trials and tribulations all his life. And yet he was tested again and again and again. So here we are being challenged that if you have that kind of a conviction like Ibrahim did, then the fire is still there that can really turn into the bed of roses for you. Andaz Gulistan is the manners of that garden. The fire has not lost that ability, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not lost that power. But what is missing is conviction like Abraham.
And is the Andaz Gulistan a metaphor for the Iman of Ibrahim?
No. Andaz Gulistan is that the way that Gulistan will behave. Andaz means the way of conducting yourself. Mm-hmm. So the fire conducted herself to be changed into a flower bed. So आग आज भी वो अंदाज पैदा कर सकती है. आग can become like Gulistan even today, if you had the conviction of Abraham like he had.
Yes, understood.
आग का अंदाज है जलाना, मगर अंदाज गुलिस्तान है किसी को आराम देना, खुशबू देना, आंखों को क्या कहते हैं खुशी देना. तो यह है अंदाज गुलिस्तान. He said आग can create that manner of behavior if you had the faith like Abraham.
Yeah. And we see the rest of it, right? This new era is like lightning, which is arsoning and burning that stack of grain that we had spoken about, where no one is safe from it, whether they are living in a land which is very inhabited or not inhabited. And this new fire is utilizing the nations of old and their traditions as its fuel, as its firewood. Right? And the people who are of the last messenger, who follow the Prophet ﷺ, Muslims, their clothes are right now on fire. They are on fire from that lightning. And actually, if you think about it, there's a very, very heavy state of urgency. Right? You're on fire. What do you do when you're on fire? Right? What do you do when your house is on fire? Right? You say, iska wo paint mujhe badalna hai. Right? No, your house is on fire. You need to put the fire out or get the heck out of your house.
Exactly.
Now he's saying that the only thing that's gonna the only thing that's gonna save you, right, and turn that fire into a comfort for you is having faith like Abraham. And it's only that it is only that faith which will turn the fire into a bed of roses, into a calming place, just like Ibrahim alayhi salam's faith turned the fire into a bed of roses for him during the time that he was in it.
Exactly. The giving the example of the lightning and being on fire, and all that is to show you the time to act is now. Urgency is there. Things are going the wrong way, and all the ancestral culture and ancestral way of life is at stake now. So this is the time that you have to really believe in oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have that conviction. And then you will see that the things will change for you, and the fire that you have, your clothes are on fire right now, that fire can behave like a bed of roses or a garden for you, if you realize the urgency of the matter.
Right. Okay. Any questions or comments from anyone?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May I say a few words?
Please, yes, go ahead.
Yes, so what I understood from this is that Sir Iqbal is trying to tell us that the people who actually came to India, they were actually suffering from the spiritual disease of the heart. They didn't have, if their faith was really strong in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would have actually, instead of getting influenced by the culture around there, they would have actually influenced the people that actually they came in touch with over there. Instead, they were suffering from wantonness, hatred, and relying on other than God, and then having envying what others had, and then also having negative thoughts about everything. So what he's trying to say is that he's trying to awaken the Muslim community and trying to tell them that come back towards the the kind of faith that the Sahabas had at that time, and the kind of faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually expects every true believer
Believer,
to
yeah.
have. And this is what I understood from today's
That's exactly what it is. You understood it perfectly. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
thank you.
Here, although he used the example of India temporarily, but
Yeah.
basically the complaint that Iqbal had made was wider, that Ottoman Empire at that time was, of course, going. This was written around 1914, 15 and stuff. So at that time, Muslims were being defeated everywhere, and the Middle East was being divided into different areas. So that was the perspective of Iqbal, and previous verses have Bunds have explained that also. But this particular Bund basically was using the words Brahman and Hind and all that. This is why you.
It could be applied anywhere in the world. And I mean, I have met people who actually are Muslims, but who actually don't want to be identified with the Muslim culture, and they're afraid of doing so. And then they say that, why do you have to read namaz? They I mean, this is what is I think Iqbal is talking about, that not having tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not having that faith, that that strong faith that you need to have, that yaqeen. Yeah, exactly. So that is lacking. So because of that, yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And he's going to take us now to a broader picture in the next bunds that are coming. But basically, it was just one by one, he was trying to respond to the shikwa that Iqbal had made in particular tones here and there. So now all those complaints that Iqbal had against God, one by one, they have been more or less dissected, and reasons for those situations told to Iqbal now. This is probably the last one in that particular tone. After this, the hope will start. When we move on further, I don't know whether we have time for that or not. Maybe
Thank you.
We should have more comments probably like this, because that's where we learn when we hear from others as to how this is really going down. Then we know that there's much more to it, and every mind has its own beautiful explanation and understanding of it. This verse, "Aaj bhi ho jo Ibrahim ka imam paida, aag kar sakti hai andaze gulistan paida." This is a very, very well referred verse. Many khatibs talk about it, and many lecturers and writers use this particular one, because this one is very unique way of Iqbal's discourse when he talks about Millat-e-Islamiyya, our Muslim community.
I know what I'm doing my khutbah on this week.
Go ahead. Use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is when you say that don't lose hope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same that it was and will always be. And mayusi gunah hai. Losing hope is kind of an undesirable thing to say. Is almost like a sin. So you cannot lose hope. And this is very good verse to use. आज भी हो जो इब्राहिम का ईमान पैदा, आग कर सकती है अंदाज़े गुलिस्तान. Beautiful.
I don't know, do we have time for one more comment or what time do
Yes,
we
go ahead.
end?
Yeah, we have plenty of time. Go ahead.
I was
Yeah,
just, it is so beautiful that how Imam Iqbal has, first he's made a diagnosis in the first four, I don't know if we can call them lines.
Yes, yes.
And
Band is
then,
4 lines plus 2. Six lines is a band. 4 is usually the explanation, and the last 2 lines usually are what he meant to say.
right.
Okay.
So in the first four lines, he's made a diagnosis of what the problem is.
Right.
But he doesn't just leave us there in the last part that you narrated a few times, and it's highlighted here too, where we're talking about Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. He gives us a remedy also. He prescribes something to put down the fire.
Yeah.
So he's giving us a complete message, okay? Because sometimes it's easy to diagnose or point the flaws and just leave us there, okay, so what do we do now? But he doesn't, he's aware of the steps, necessary steps we need to put down the fire.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, mashallah.
Okay, everyone.
For-
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciated it. We will continue on next week. So some people were asking, we have about 6 more weeks of Jawab al-Shikwa left. We'll let you know what our next plans are, but inshallah we'll be done with Jawab al-Shikwa right before Ramadan. And I'm actually thinking that finishing Jawab al-Shikwa right before Ramadan is going to be a real treat. It will, because now you'll have new thoughts that you can focus on this Ramadan. Like, what is the state of the Ummah? What is my state? Who am I? So inshallah, I'm hoping that once we get through it, you'll have this newfound understanding of your faith and of your own identity as a Muslim, what will provide you the ability to reflect and ponder in the Ramadan, which is literally 7 weeks away.
Yeah. Well, after Shikwa and Jawab al-Shikwa, we will have other lessons from Iqbal. Iqbal's poetry basically is a very purposeful poetry. He is one of those poets whose practically every verse has a lesson in it. He did not write it for the sake of poetry. He wrote it for the sake of message. So we will, mashallah, we can continue all our lives on Iqbal's message and Rumi's message and never finish. So we will pick beautiful topics after Shikwa, Jawab al-Shikwa finishes, and continue to delve on the message that Iqbal is giving to the Ummah. Beautifully, beautifully. Okay, we have gone over an hour now almost.
Yep. Okay, everyone. Jazakallah khair. Subhanakallah. Alhamdulillah. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Take care. Have a good week. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.